At first glance, Ledgerbound presents itself as a raunchy corporate satire, tactical RPG driven by star-studded voice performances and surprisingly robust customization mechanics. Yet beneath its lowbrow gags and tight grid-based battles lies a game that continually wrestles with its own comedic boundaries, landing somewhere between a genuinely engaging tactical exercise and an uncomfortable lightning rod for real-world labor politics, as Ledgerbound's core satire reinforces tired, damaging corporate stereotypes. While Ledgerbound is not a deep, heartfelt story by any means, the characters are all engaging enough to hold interest in the moment-to-moment scenes, and each have their own quirks. You can romance all of your companions, but the mechanic feels a bit awkward in practice. You just kind of talk with them from time to time and choose to enter a relationship or not. There's no real build-up to any of it, making the romance system feel essentially meaningless. Where the narrative presentation genuinely holds together is in its audio delivery. The voice acting is excellent, which should be no surprise thanks to a top-tier cast of actors like Matt Mercer, Ben Starr, and Travis Willingham, just to name a few. The parody nature of the dialogue is certainly buoyed by these performances, as bad acting would make this miserable.
Magic surges through your fingertips, sears your veins, snakes its way up your arms, around your neck. You try to breathe, but the pressure is overwhelming. Your vision blurs, your mind dizzy.
Still, the overall presentation suffers from numerous technical bugs, like audio balance issues where characters wildly shift volume mid-conversation, or instances where audio is absent entirely, leaving lines literally marked as, quote, missing VO, end quote, in the dialogue box. Underneath its irreverent skin, combat takes place on a simple tactical grid, where each character has unique skills and other limited moves based on their equipment loadout. There is an additional function of opposing elements, similar to a weapon triangle in Fire Emblem or types in Pokemon, where characters do or take more damage according to specific element types. Fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. Each fight features a main objective alongside side objectives. Completing objectives awards vouchers for gear, and completing all objectives awards shareholder value, which has other uses. You can also replay fights at a later juncture to complete side objectives, though those mock fights don't confer EXP. The combat loop hits a severe roadblock, however, due to its lack of a manual save feature. Some combat elements are finicky, and a misclick in combat or in conversation can really screw you over with no way to go back. While this is likely an effort to prevent save scumming, the end result is deeply frustrating. I myself have experienced losses or objective failures due to minor misclicks, or even when one of my cats jumped onto my desk and caused an unwanted action to occur. Such mistakes come with penalties to your free time and fatigue, ultimately locking you out of conversations or actions you would like to do outside of combat, as every action taken requires time and effort to enact, even small things like changing equipment. These issues are compounded by the fact that those bugs steadily worsen as the game progresses. Late in the campaign, an entire conversation bugged out and froze my progress, forcing me to restart. Because of the single-slot save structure, reloading skipped the conversation entirely and shoved me into the next battle, robbing me of camp time and locking me out of talking to my other companions. It's yet another critical failure that a standard manual save system would have easily prevented. Eventually, as I neared what I assumed to be the end of the game, I was completely unable to load my save file at all, putting an end to my time with Ledgerbound. Despite these frustrations, the game shines in its equipment systems, which allow for varied builds and strategies thanks to the powerful but limited nature of swag and liabilities. Swag works like your normal equipment in that it allows for one type of piece per designated slot, and you can equip them on any character. Liabilities can similarly be equipped on anyone, but they come at a cost, meaning you are constricted by not only the number of available slots, but also the liability cost of each item as compared to your limit. Unfortunately, engaging with this system requires wading through mountains of placeholder text. Crucial equipment descriptions are routinely left unwritten, making it impossible to know what an item actually does before equipping it. Here, the reliance on single autosave turns gear management into a chore. There is no risk-free way to test an item's effects in combat. You are forced to either enter a story battle blind or spend precious resources replaying a mock fight, and who knows when the next bug will strike. This is discouraging, as the liabilities are where the biggest changes can be made to characters, with them conferring specific skills or effects that may otherwise be unobtainable to a specific party member. These liabilities can help flesh out and strengthen your preferred playstyle, or allow you to pivot a character's role in battle to something different than their natural inclinations. It's all quite flexible, which helps make the otherwise mundane battle scenarios more interesting in the long run. Outside of combat, the writing's lowbrow humor proves wildly hit or miss. While not entirely bottom of the barrel, it plays like a slightly more vulgar Adam Sandler film wearing the skin of a harem anime. Some gags may come across as off-color, but it mostly never fully veers into offensive, save for two particular characters, the HR dragon Jazz and an entity known as the shareholder. I'm a bit touchy about the portrayal of human resources employees in media, because it feeds into this misguided, pervasive blame of HR for all bad things that happen in an office space. Here in Ledgerbound, the HR Spectre is a literal sexual harassment dragon. If it were possible to separate the character Jazz from real-world context, perhaps I would feel better about it. I mean, there is no reading of this character that would position her as an exemplar of good behavior. She is quite obviously a joking stand-in for people's worst imaginings of those who do that work. But nothing exists absent of context, and I'm quite tired of hearing the same drivel over and over for my entire adult life. HR is not to blame for negative work outcomes. Still, the executives who lay people off, take advantage of their workers, and otherwise implement all of the decisions that make your corporate life miserable are certainly not going to take any accountability. If someone on the lower rung can fall on the sword, why would they? Jazz here is the perfect distillation of decades of capitalist and corporatist propaganda made manifest, a slavish adherent to the worst interpretations of the adage that HR is only here to protect the company. She is exactly who Americans imagine their HR lady to be. It's a tired, sexist emblem for people to sneer at. The impulse to demonize HR extends far beyond gaming into broader political rhetoric, where anti-establishment figures frequently rail against HR culture or corporate skulls to justify brushing aside basic standards of conduct. In these spaces, holding individuals accountable for real-world misconduct is dismissed as mere bureaucratic overreach. Jazz's characterization directly taps into this sentiment, rewarding the audience's impulse to sneer at rules and oversight while ignoring why those safeguards were established in the first place. Jazz is not so much a parody of HR as she is a parody of broader cultural sentiment. She represents the antithesis of Dem HR lady politics that reactionary critics love to rail against. Jazz's existence is therefore an upholding of prevailing sexist attitudes towards women in corporate spaces. While she is a parody, she simply could not exist outside of the conditions that make those prevailing attitudes real. Ultimately, Jazz is a single character in a sea of tropes, albeit a major driving force of the game, and expecting every parody character to land well in comedy is asking a bit much. As such, it can be easy to wash your hands of her existence, to turn a blind eye to the real-world attitudes and implications that a character like this represents. Just as it is easy to dismiss a relative's offensive ramblings at a holiday. But I'm no longer interested in maintaining decorum for the sake of bad actors. I believe we can be better. More damning is the inclusion of the shareholders, the controlling force behind your insurance company who are portrayed as angelic doms. These shareholders present themselves as the end-all be-all in the corporate structure, lording over you and your team while simultaneously thrusting Reina into sexual situations and directing her to keep the meetings a secret. If only there existed an entity or department that could help prevent or reconcile such abuses. Alas, we, and by extension Reyna, are left without recourse. While all other characters give you the option to rebuff unwanted advances, the shareholders do not. The only way to avoid a sexually charged encounter with them is to never have engaged with them at all, something that is unknowable beforehand, and also not possible to take back due to the game's save system. I have toiled far too long in the office space to find much joy or humor in these types of workplace abuses. The power dynamics inherent to the employer-employee relationship make such things so toxic and coercive that even a play on such dynamics here hurts my heart. I have seen lives and careers ruined by similar abuses of power, and placing me unwillingly into the shoes of a victim, even if Reyna enjoys the abuses, really just grosses me out. It is not lost on me that the player character in Ledgerbound is a woman, and that the specific scenarios she endures are those that disproportionately affect women in the corporate workspace. Where does that leave Ledgerbound as a video game? Mechanically, it is a surprisingly simple tactical RPG with a flexible gear system, and it features a star-studded cast carrying its script. But games don't exist in a vacuum. When a title builds a major character or characters around lazy punch-down satire and real-world harm, it forces players to decide whether the quality of its tactical trappings is enough to excuse its political posturing. For those who can compartmentalize its worst comedic impulses, there is a somewhat competent strategy game here. For everyone else, the nature of its underlying tropes may render the whole ordeal something to be written off. My final verdict is this: Ledgerbound is a competent tactics RPG wearing the shell of satire. Unfortunately, that satire does more to uphold corporatist propaganda and stereotypes, while simultaneously glorifying real-world harms, than it ever does to tear them down. On top of distasteful storytelling, it is also plagued by numerous technical issues and a dearth of features. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, check out our website, www.jetsonplaysgames.com, for more pieces like this one, as well as video game reviews, news, and opinion pieces. Be seeing ya!